All right, music fans, welcome. Harmless Dave here, talking real music in real time for real people just like you and just like me. Okay, so this is going to border on like a TMZ video, unfortunately, because the content is what it is, but I think it is interesting and bizarre. So, Valerie Bertnelli has revealed to the world what Eddie Van Halen said in his last moments, basically Eddie's last words, which were, I love you. And apparently that was directed at both Valerie Bertinelli and Wolfie, who was there. And again, maybe I just don't understand this relationship that they had. And the more Valerie Bertinelli talks, the more it seems like Janie Van Halen, who was married to Eddie at the time, doesn't really count. Like her existence doesn't really matter. And the reason I say this is because there is a bizarre paragraph in this article that really grabbed my attention. So, first of all, she says, I can't explain the feelings Ed and I had for each other, said Bertinelli, who just filed for divorce from her second husband, Tom Vitale, in November of 2021. She also ponders the possibility that she and Van Halen might have gotten back together had he lived. Keep in mind, he was married to someone else. Who really knows had he not died? I doubt it. I loved him more than I know how to explain, and there's nothing sexual about it. It was more than that. There is no greater love than what we had between the two of us. And with that, we made this beautiful son. Okay, again, she got divorced from Eddie. I think it was back in 2007. The divorce was finalized in 2007, partly as a result of Van Halen's struggles with substance abuse. She says, I hated the drugs and alcohol, but I never hated him. I saw his pain. So apparently she has a new book out. In this new book, she talks about all these things. The book is called Enough Already, Learning to Love the Way I Am Today. So again, there's a lot of material like for the Oprah Winfrey show here, right? Is that still a thing, Oprah? This is very Oprah-ish, Oprah-esque, borderline Maury Povich, if you remember that guy, because obviously she still had feelings for Ed. She got divorced from Ed in 2007. Now, Ed didn't just run out and find a new wife. It took a good amount of time for that to happen. But I think based on the pictures that I used to see of Ed and Janie, and they kind of looked good together. They looked happy together. Maybe, I don't know if Janie is commenting on all of this Valerie Bertinelli stuff, but to me, it's just weird. And it was weird, the grieving that went on and on. Okay, this wasn't your husband at the time of death. I get it. I mean, I remember Cher being broken up when Sonny Bono, met his match because he, as an expert skier, apparently skied into a tree, which doesn't sound right, but that's another video. But she was broken up. She spent a long time with Sonny, and everybody remembers Sonny and Cher. And I understand the lingering feelings there, but my first inclination would be to say, well, in 2007, you should have stuck by him if you cared that much about him. You should have helped him with the drugs and the alcohol. But you guys got a divorce. And I think it was a mutual thing at the time. Ed got remarried. And to say something like, hey, who knows? If he had lived, maybe we would have gotten back together again. I would have pried Ed away from his current wife, told her to hit the road, told Ed to get a divorce so you can marry me again. I mean, this is getting a little weird. All right. It's just getting a little weird. You can mourn, you can miss, you can say things that are hypothetical like this, but it doesn't make any sense based on Ed's relationship with Janie Van Halen, right? And I just don't understand why this keeps coming back into the news. Like, she had first claim on Ed, and that means everything that happened after her either doesn't exist or doesn't matter. Yes, you guys had a kid together. Now, this is interesting because Wolf is a high profile, sort of high maintenance guy, and he's in the news quite a bit, and he likes to sort of tangle with people on Twitter. I don't know. And he'll defend his mother, which is fine, but this is kind of bizarre. Everybody just has sort of forgotten about Ed's wife at the time of his death, which I think is important. It shows that he had moved on. Maybe everybody at that moment, looking at their life and the seriousness of what was occurring, that people were re-examining their priorities and wishing things hadn't gone down the way they had, but at that point, it was already done. So I don't know. A lot of times, this kind of stuff is said to generate publicity, and it certainly is doing that. I'm talking about it. I don't know if anyone else will talk about this. I've mentioned it on a couple other occasions. I have patrons who've sent me messages saying, yeah, it's getting a little bit weird with the whole Valerie Bertnelli thing and Ed, and she should have just stuck with him, and she didn't. And I know maybe it was more on his end that he wanted out of the relationship. If I really dug into those details, I would probably find that out. It doesn't really matter at this stage because he was married to someone else. So it's just weird. So that's kind of the video. There's nothing else really to say about it other than it's just kind of bizarre. And she's got a book out, and I'm sure there's probably all kinds of great details in there about their relationship. And a storybook relationship, it wasn't. It was an interesting relationship, certainly in the early days. I think everybody was rooting for those two. I remember the pictures where they kind of looked alike. When they first got married, they seemed almost like they're, brother and sister because the hair and everything else. But you could tell everybody was happy at that moment. And, it was a celebrity marriage, and celebrity marriages are often doomed because there's so much pressure and there's so many appearances you have to make, and you have to pretend that everything is fine when it's not. And I can't imagine how difficult that is, especially with the paparazzi running around taking pictures and trying to find any of the dirt. And that's a full-time thing nowadays, with the whole TMZ group, and pretty much most of the regular media today is obsessed with the details on things like this. I just find it a little weird, and maybe it's not, maybe it's normal, maybe I'm making too much of this, but in any event, that's the video. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, hit the bell for notifications. Join me on Patreon for just $1 a month, and you never know what I'm going to talk about in a video. So that's what's interesting. Anyway, we're done. See you soon.